I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, February the 8th, brought to you in part by Beaver County Stockyards, Beaver, Oklahoma. Going to have a light run on this Tuesday here, the regular feeder cattle auction and slaughter cows too to follow, but only expecting maybe 12 to 1400, which not that many years ago would have been a big run at Beaver, Oklahoma, but not anymore. They have big runs every week and have a good set of buyers in there with plenty of room, lots of orders, and selling lots of loads of cattle in there. They've got 8 or 10 loads of feeder cattle in there here on Tuesday despite the light run. But if you are looking for a place in that part of the country, like I tell Jeff Slatton all the time, Beaver, Oklahoma is in the middle of nowhere, but it's not that far to anywhere. But check out Beaver County Stockyards. Feeder receipts light, and that storm that we had last week and the snow that we had, which was not real deep in the southern plains, but was measurable and did drift in places and things like that. We had some bad roads and slick conditions and things, but it's sure keeping the feeder cattle from being marketed this week. Oklahoma National Stockyards had less than 2,000 head. My gosh. That was barely worth opening the doors for there, but just you know, it's muddy in spots, and guys weren't able to get the cattle where they needed to have them to get them ready to ship. And of course, the cattle were pulled down on weights due to the storm that came through there and sapped them a little bit. Don't want to sell cattle whenever they're sucked down, so it's going to be a light offering on your feeder cattle receipts in that part of the country up until later in the week, as it's really turning off nice this week. But up in the northern plains didn't scare them any. Of course, they didn't have the same kind of weather, and they were actually up 60 degrees in South Dakota and warmer than that in a lot of places up there. And Faith, South Dakota had 6,000 head on Monday in comparison. So, but guys are busy right now. Been traveling up in the Midwest and the northern plains here of late, and it's kind of fun to go through there because everybody's got their cows up there in the front pastures close to the facilities as they are doing their calving, which they call spring calving, but it's really winter calving. And guys are busy doing that. Was sitting with Mike McClellan there at the Hancock County Cattlemen's Ball there in Quincy, Illinois on Saturday night, and he had a notepad there, and he had cameras set up in his barns and in his calving pens there around the corrals, and he was watching a lot of his heifers and things as we were enjoying the ball. But that's pretty high-tech stuff for a cattleman, but it was pretty neat to watch. But you guys are wondering about what's going to happen with the market this week. Your fat cattle market has a chance to be higher again. We're really short of market-ready supplies, and we had that good clearance of our show list last week. And so over, almost 82,000 head in the 5-area feeding region. That's a lot better than we've been having. We'd like to see 100,000, but when we're short on numbers, up in the 80s is not bad at all. And so, and that's what those of us that are wanting a minimum negotiated mandate are seeing. Whenever we have heavy receipts trade volume in negotiated pure cash, we see higher prices. And we're wondering if that's just a coincidence or what. You'd think, well, why would they trade more negotiated cash if the prices were higher? Because they need the cattle, are coming after the cattle, guys. And then everybody that rides on the coattails of that negotiated cash through some type of an AMA or some type of a formula deal or what have you, they don't participate in there, but they get to reap the rewards whenever it's better. But don't let up on supporting that Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. Just because NCBA decided not to support it, or barely to even acknowledge its presence, the biggest bill to affect cattle trade, commercial cattle trade, and no telling how long, probably all the way back to the Packers and Stockyards Act, and they barely even acknowledged that it existed. Just talked about their own directives, and then passed a directive to oppose all mandates for minimum negotiated cash. Well, you know, I mean, we're not crazy about mandates either, but we would like to have something come in here and at least drag the cash trade out and keep our smaller independent cattle feeders in business for another 30 or 40 years, or maybe even longer than that. But if we don't get something done, guys, we're very, very short time. We're just going to be contract growers, and then it's all going to be just economies of scale. Not that it's not already, but you know, it's just the days are numbered, and it's not hard for me to decide what issue to get behind or what side to get on. I just don't want to push anything or get behind or support anything that's gonna make for less cattle producers. And you guys need to think about that. If you're in the business of the cattle business, and a lot of you have side deals where you sell feed, or you know, help guys with their risk management, or you're in the marketing business, or you buy cattle or things like that. Things like opposing this mandate, and we're seeing that our negotiated cash is drying up. That is going to limit the number of players in commercial cattle business. And when you do that, then you guys have less customers. And that's the main reason I do it, although I'm just pretty nostalgic, and I like to support the Western way of life and Western heritage, and long live cowboys. And if we're just going to all have be contract growers, the way your hog people are doing it and the way the chicken people are doing it, that doesn't really go along with the way I should see things. But tell you what, these senators, we're going to have a big media push here the next couple of 3 weeks here. They're tightening that thing up, and they may even alter that bill just a little bit. They're just getting the wording just right, because they have plans on getting that pushed through and getting it passed and making it law before too long. So guys, get behind that. I've asked you to do this several times. I'm going to ask you again. You got 2 senators in your state. It doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat. I know a lot of us or most of us are conservative. We may not pay that much attention to our Democratic senators, if you have one in your state, but their president has endorsed that bill. So get a hold of your 2 federal senators, U.S. senators. Tell them that you want to get behind the Grassley and Fisher compromise bill, Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. They're going to know what you're talking about. There's already been talk that some of these senators that are up for election are worried about how they're going to vote on this bill, depending on you know, where they're at in their election fight. Especially in our populous states where we have a lot of farmer feeders, a lot of cow-calf producers, a lot of feeder flash gang members and stuff like that. You know, they might go by the way of NCBA, but they don't want anybody to know about it, because they know that the people out in the trenches, the guys that have cows, the guys that are backgrounded, the guys that are in the marketing of it, the guys that are feeding cattle, they know that we need this bill. And if they're gonna fall in with the suits of NCBA, then they know that's going to hurt them whenever their election comes up. And I hope it does if they do vote against it and they're in a cattle state, because there's absolutely no reason to do that. But let's talk about your futures to open the week here on Monday. February live cattle futures down 22 cents at 141.82. April down 47 at 146.40. Go on your back months, and they were down 37 cents to up 7 cents, and didn't see huge losses in our live cattle arena. The cattle futures kind of come into the week a little bit overbought, and so we expected them to come down just a little bit, but probably just a little breather, and we would not be surprised at all to see them shoot back up again later this week. March feeder cattle down 107 at 165.02. April down $1.15 at 170.27. Our grains just keep going up, guys, and that's what's hurting our feeder cattle more than anything. Back months on your feeder cattle down 32 cents to down 62 cents. Look at your corn; it was up 14 3/4, all the way up to 6.35 1/4 now a bushel. Beans have lost control, up 28 1/4 cent on Monday, closing with March contracts at 15.81 3/4. Wow. Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 6 cents, now at 7.91 3/4. Talk about your weighted average on last week's negotiated direct fat cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region. 81,600 head. Like I mentioned earlier, that's pretty darn good. That's as good as we've seen this year, compared to 65,800 last week, and about the same kind of a trade a year ago this week, 81,400 head. But last week's fat cattle live sales were 136 to 142, mostly 140, but your weighted average on live steers in the 5 area was 139.76. That was $2.81 higher than the weighted average from the previous week. Dress sales ranged from 218 to 224, a lot of 222. The weighted average on dress steers 221.79, and that was $3.79 higher than the previous week. So that's a really good gains there. We could see similar gains like that again this week, but you gotta ask more for them, guys. If we had a minimum negotiated cash trade, when they came in and offered you something, you could tell them that you're not ready to sell. You could turn down that first bid and feel comfortable that they were going to come back and bid you again. But I understand that they use it against you, and if you don't take that bid, you might miss the boat. But we sure got an opportunity to gain ground here the first few months of this year. Nationwide negotiated trade, 98,200 head, nearly 100,000 nationwide. I remember it hadn't been that long ago when I was a market man in Texas in Amarillo office. We sold 100,000 head in the Texas Panhandle, pure negotiated cash every week. And that was in the late 90s, guys. Now it takes a heck of a week, the whole nation, to get 98,200 head. Compare that to negotiated grid, turned in at 34,300. Formula sales last week, 294,100 head, to be priced off the smaller volume. But of the 98,200 negotiated cash, about 23.5% of them were for 15 to 30 day delivery, and that's about normal. So we're not seeing them really lining things up. They're trying to step it up a little bit because they know this thing could get away from them here as tight as we are on market ready supplies. Box beef cutout values down on Monday, 278.96 on the choice cuts, down 85. Select down 101 at 275.04. Started out with a good week of slaughter. 121,000 harvested was estimated for Monday, and that's as good as we can ask for. I want to give you guys a little quick report here, if you'll indulge me. All of this is through DV Auction, and DV Auction's main deal is production sales. We broadcast production sales on site all over the country to come in, set up the cameras. If you guys want to have a TV sale, we'll set up the TVs and run them for you too. We can do the video log for you. You'll have an online catalog that people can shop from on our website. You got access to tens of thousands of reputable buyers that you don't even know and never sold bulls to before. But our DV Auction production sale report for January is now available, and not that January is a big month for us, but total bids online there on DV Auction was over 10,000 of them. We had nearly 2,000 lots sold for production sales, and total sales on our production sale report for January was around $8 million. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to see that production sale report explode here the next few weeks as we get into full-blown bull season. But let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon. Real-time index on DV auction late on Monday had your index value at 162.18 based on an 800-pound steer. That was up $1.52 compared to the end of last week. Much of that gain was due to your last day dropping off. It's a 7-day moving average, so you know how much higher the markets were to start the week out last Monday. We're all on that higher market now. We saw that last day drop off, and now we've got much higher index value there. Like I said, Oklahoma National Stockyards, Oklahoma City, just 1,800 head of receipts there for their Monday feeder cattle auction. Feeders $2 to $6 higher, spots as much as $8 higher on the light run, and calves $5 to $10 higher on a light test also. Joplin Regional Stockyards 2,200 head, so light run there also. Feeders steady to $2 higher, steer calves $4 to $7 higher, and heifer calves $6 to $12 higher on a lighter run there at Joplin Regional Stockyards. Russell Livestock in Russell, Iowa, 3,500 head there. Compared to just last week, feeder steers $7 to $9 higher, feeder heifers $2 to $5 higher, calves were steady to $4 higher. Faith Livestock, mentioned them earlier. This is the only place you'll see their market reported. Faith Livestock, Faith, South Dakota, 6,000 head on Monday. Look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central by DV Auction. Let's look at your best tested weights of steers. 489 head of your 5-weight steer calves, average 558, with a weighted average price on all the 5-weight steers of 205.91. 740 head of your 6-weight steers, average 645, with a weighted average price of 182.17. Very impressive. 678 head of your 7-weight steer calves, Faith, South Dakota, average 738 with a weighted average price of 173.05. How about some individual quotes? Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Sioux Falls, or in Worthing, South Dakota, actually sold 124 head of 490-pound steers. Now that's scaring 500 pounds pretty hard at $223.50. Faith, South Dakota, I gave you their report earlier there. Look at their stick out sale. 78 head, 709-pound steers bring 179. And they were all in South Dakota on this episode of Feeder Flash. The best quote that I saw anywhere on Monday come out of Aberdeen Livestock Sales, Aberdeen, South Dakota. It's your National Beef Wire top quote for the day. 69 head, 918-pound steers bring $165. And that's your Feeder Flash for Tuesday.